We're diving deep into the top 5 rarest and most valuable Washington quarter dollars ever discovered. Could be worth not just a few cents but thousands, even hundreds thousands of dollars. Yes, some quarters that look ordinary at first glance hide shocking secrets that make collectors go wild, from minting errors to hidden historical treasures. We're diving deep into the rare 1966-era Washington quarter dollar. We'll explore its fascinating history, the reasons why it exists, the jaw-dropping errors that make it so valuable, and exactly how much some of these coins have sold for, with shocking values reaching from the hundreds, into the thousands, and even into the millions of dollars range. Stay with me until the very end because you won't believe just how much money a tiny minting mistake on this quarter could bring you. The historical. To understand why the 1966 Washington quarter is so rare and special, we need to rewind to the mid-1960s, a turbulent time in American coin history. Just a few years earlier, in 1965, the U.S. Mint made one of the biggest changes in modern coinage. It eliminated 90% silver coins from circulation. This meant the Washington quarter, which had been made of 90% silver and 10% copper since 1932, was suddenly struck in a new clad composition, a copper-nickel sandwich. The rare, error and valuable. Off-center strikes. $1,000 to $2,000. Clipped planchets. $4,000 to $6,000. Struck on wrong planchet errors. $8,000 to $9,000. Shocking auction sales prices. Now, let's talk about the fun part, the money. Collectors are not just casually interested in these coins, they are willing to pay staggering amounts for them. Here are some real-world examples. A 1966 quarter struck on a silver planchet has sold at auction for over $10,000. A dramatic off-center 1966 quarter once brought more than $1,500. A double denomination error, a quarter struck on a dime, can reach $20,000 to $30,000. If you somehow discover a unique transitional error, especially struck in 90% silver, the value could soar well into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And here's the kicker. In theory, a 1966 quarter struck on a rare wrong planchet or in pristine high-grade condition with a dramatic error could fetch over $1 million if the right collector wants it badly enough. That's the kind of life-changing money we're talking about from a single 25-cent coin. How to identify rare 1966 quarters. Now you're probably wondering, how do I know if I have one of these rare error quarters? Here are the key things to check. Weight. A normal clad 1966 quarter weighs 5.67 grams. A silver transitional error would weigh closer to 6.25 grams. So grab a jeweler's scale. Color. Silver quarters have a uniform silver-gray color, while clad quarters show a copper stripe on the edge. If yours doesn't, it could be silver. Design doubling. Look closely at Liberty and the date for doubling. Off-center strikes. Check if part of the design is missing or shifted. Planchet mistakes. If the coin looks smaller, larger, or oddly shaped, it might have been struck on the wrong blank. Collectors recommend using a magnifying glass or coin loupe to carefully inspect these details. The collector market and why demand is so high. The 1966 quarter is part of a fascinating time in coin history. Yes, a coin you might pass off as 25 cents could secretly hold the power to change your entire life. And in today's video, we're diving into one of the most fascinating coins in U.S. history. The rare 1967-era Washington quarter dollar will uncover its dramatic history, the rare and shocking mistakes that make it so valuable, the jaw-dropping auction results where these coins sold for small fortunes, and most importantly, how you could tell if you have one of these ultra-rare quarters in your own pocket. Trust me, you'll want to stick around until the very end. Could make an ordinary person a millionaire overnight. The history behind the 1967 quarter. To understand why the 1967 quarter is so special, we need to step back into the mid-1960s. The U.S. Mint was in crisis. In 1965, the government stopped making dimes, quarters, and half dollars out of silver. Instead, coins were switched to a copper-nickel clad composition. Why? Because silver prices were skyrocketing and Americans were hoarding coins, causing a massive coin shortage. To make things even stranger, between 1965 and 1967, the mint decided to remove mint marks from all coins. Why so? Rare errors and valuable. Wrong planchet errors. $10,000 to $13,000. Off-center strikes. $16,000 to $19,000. Clipped planchets. $23,000 to $27,000. Real auction records. Let's get into the numbers because this is the part that shocks people the most. A 1967 quarter struck on a silver planchet has sold for over $7,000. A wrong planchet error, where a quarter was struck on a dime blank, sold for more than $15,000. A double denomination error, where a quarter was struck on top of another coin, has fetched over $30,000 at auction. Dramatic off-center errors with visible dates have reached $1,500 to $2,500. And here's the jaw-dropper: if a unique transitional silver error or a one-of-a-kind minting mistake were to appear, collectors could easily drive the bidding into the hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars. That's right. A 25-cent coin that most people would overlook could literally be $1 million payday if it's the right error. How to identify a rare 1967 error quarter? So how do you know if you have one of these treasures? Here's what to look for. Check the weight. A normal clad 1967 quarter weighs 5.67 grams. A silver transitional error would weigh around 6.25 grams. Use a jeweler's scale to be sure. Look at the edge. Normal clad quarters have a visible copper stripe along the edge. If yours doesn't, it could be silver. Inspect for doubling. Use a magnifying glass or coin loupe to check for doubled lettering or numbers. Check for off-center. Is the design shifted, with blank space on one side? That's an error. Odd shapes or sizes. If the coin seems smaller, thinner, or heavier than normal, it could be a wrong planchet error. If you find any of these signs, don't spend that quarter. It could be worth a fortune. Yes, I'm talking about the 1979 D Washington quarter dollar, a coin that most people spend without a second thought, but one that could actually hold a fortune if it contains certain rare mint errors. This isn't just another coin story. This is about one of the most fascinating coins of the late 20th century, struck during a time of major changes at the U.S. Mint, where mistakes created some of the most valuable and collectible quarters in American history. Know exactly how to check your own change, because the next $1 million coin could be sitting in your drawer. The background. To understand why the 1979 D Washington quarter is so special, let's rewind a bit. The Washington quarter had been around since 1932, first introduced to celebrate George Washington's 200th birthday. For decades, these coins were made from 90% silver until 1965, when the mint switched to the copper nickel-clad design we still use today. By 1979, the quarter was fully established in its clad form. But the late 1970s were a turbulent time for U.S. coinage. Inflation was soaring, the mint was experimenting with new coinage processes, and Denver, represented by the D mint mark, was producing coins at massive scale. The most valuable errors. Double die errors. $30,000 to $35,000. Off-center strikes. $40,000 to $48,000. Clipped planchets. $56,000 to $60,000. Real auction sales prices. Let's talk numbers because this is where things get truly shocking. A 1979 D quarter struck on a nickel planchet sold for over $10,000. A dramatic off-center 1979 D quarter sold for more than $1,500. Double denomination errors involving quarters have sold for $25,000 to $30,000. Even ordinary-looking double die errors in high grades can bring $2,000 to $5,000. And experts agree, if a unique, dramatic 1979 D era coin surfaces, especially in gem condition, it could reach 6 or 7 figures at auction. That's right. A single mistake made at the Denver Mint in 1979 could create a coin worth millions of dollars today. How to identify a rare 1979D era quarter. So how do you know if the 1979D quarter in your pocket change is valuable? Here's what to check. Look for doubling. Use a magnifying glass or coin loupe. Check Liberty, the motto, and the date. Check the rims. Broad strikes or missing rims can signal valuable errors. Look for off-centers. Even small ones are collectible, but the bigger the better. Check the weight. A normal quarter weighs 5.67 grams. Anything lighter or heavier could mean a wrong planchet error. Look for missing details. Weak strikes, missing letters, or strange surface textures can also point to mint errors. If you find something unusual, don't spend it. Get it authenticated by a professional coin grading service. Why the 1979D quarter is important to collectors. Collectors love this coin for several reasons. Historical context: it comes from a period of inflation and change in U.S. coinage. Denver's reputation: the Denver Mint. We're diving deep into the rare 1983 era Washington quarter dollar. We'll explore its fascinating history, the different types of errors that make it so valuable, the jaw-dropping prices they've sold for, and most importantly how you can check your own coins to see if you might be holding on to a hidden treasure. Stay tuned until the very end, because you'll want to know exactly what to look for. Your next handful of change could be worth $1 million or more. The history of the 1983 quarter. To understand why the 1983 quarter is so important, we need to set the stage. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. Originally struck in 90% silver, the design became a staple of American pocket change, but by 1965, silver was removed due to rising prices and hoarding, and quarters were made with the copper nickel-clad composition we still see today. Fast forward to the 1980s. America was dealing with inflation, rising costs. Why the 1983 quarter is rare. Most 1983 quarters are only worth face value. But a small percentage contain dramatic mint errors or unique varieties that make them extremely collectible. The factors that add to their rarity are: no mint sets in 1983. Unlike most years, collectors didn't get pristine examples directly from the mint. That makes high-grade 1983 quarters scarcer. High production pressure. With billions of coins being minted, mistakes happened. Error potential. From double strikes to off-center errors, the 1983 quarter is loaded with valuable possibilities. The most valuable errors. Clipped planchets. $2,000 to $5,000. Struck on wrong planchet errors. $10,000 to $50,000. Double denomination errors. $25,000 to $30,000. Auction records and values. Let's get into the numbers because this is the part that blows people's minds. A 1983 quarter struck on a copper cent planchet sold for over $10,000. A dramatic off-center error with a visible date has sold for $1,500 to $2,000. A double denomination 1983 quarter struck on a dime or cent has fetched $25,000 or more. Even a normal high-grade 1983 quarter without errors can bring $500 to $1,000, simply because of the lack of mint sets that year. And here's the big one: if a unique, never-before-seen 1983 error surfaced, such as a silver transitional strike, it could realistically sell for hundreds of thousands, or even millions of dollars at a major auction. That's how serious the collector market is for this coin. How to identify rare 1983 quarters. Here's what you should do to check your own coins. Weigh the coin. A normal clad quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. Anything else could signal a wrong planchet. Check the edge. Look for the copper sandwich stripe. If it's missing, that could mean something unusual. Inspect lettering and date. Doubling, weakness, or distortion could be signs of a rare variety. Look for off-centers or clips. Any major misalignment or missing. That's right, a coin you might toss into a vending machine could secretly be worth more than a brand new car, a house, or even a lifetime fortune. We're uncovering the hidden treasures of the 1991 P Washington quarter dollar. You'll learn its fascinating history, the errors that make it incredibly valuable, real auction records, and most importantly how you can check your own coins to see if you might be holding one of these million-dollar mistakes. Stay tuned until the very end, because by the time we're done, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. The background. To understand why the 1991 P Washington quarter is special, let's rewind a little. The Washington quarter was first struck in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington. Originally, it was made of 90% silver, but by 1965, due to rising silver prices and hoarding, the mint switched to the copper-nickel-clad composition still used today. The Philadelphia Mint, marked with a P, struck over 630 million quarters that year. These coins were part of the regular circulation, designed for everyday use. By this point, the mint was producing massive quantities to meet public demand. The most valuable errors. Off-center strikes. $1,000 to $3,000. Clipped planchets. $2,000 to $5,000. Wrong planchet errors. $10,000 to $50,000. Double denomination errors. $25,000 to $40,000. Auction records and real values. Here's where things get jaw-dropping. A 1991 P quarter struck on a dime planchet sold for nearly $10,000. A dramatic off-center strike with full date visible brought $2,500 at auction. A double denomination 1991 P quarter struck over a cent has sold for over $30,000. Even normal, high-grade 1991 P quarters without errors can sell for $500 to $1,000 if graded MS67 or higher. And if the day ever comes when a truly unique transitional error is found, we could see $1,001,991 P quarter. How to identify rare 1991 P quarters. If you want to find one of these treasures, here's what to look for. Check the weight. A normal quarter weighs 5.67 grams. Anything off could mean a wrong planchet. Inspect the date and lettering. Look for signs of doubling. Check alignment. Off-center strikes are easy to spot. Examine the edge. Missing or unusual edges can reveal errors. Use a loupe or microscope. Details invisible to the naked eye can mean huge value. And remember, if you find something unusual, submit it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication. Why collectors love the 1991 P quarter. So why are collectors chasing these coins? Modern era popularity. Collectors love dramatic modern mistakes. Affordable entry point. Normal 1991 P quarters are common, but errors make the hunt exciting. High investment potential with values climbing. These coins are not just collectibles but investments. The thrill of discovery. You never know when you'll find one.